Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I've got a full review to do for you. It's actually pretty overdue. I've had this knife for a while. This is the Liong Mah Field Duty EDC, and it was loaned to me by my buddy Chris over at Grady's Gear. I will link to him down below, as well as to Liong Mah. Why not? Might as well. And yeah, so this is a knife that Chris, Grady's Gear, picked up. I don't know how long ago. Feels like it wasn't that long ago. I guess it probably was at least a few months though. And he loves this thing. I'm pretty sure he picked it up because both Kevin and Kyle, the three of us, or the four of us, I should say, the three of them and myself, are in a group chat and we talk every single day. Kevin and Kyle are both big fans of not only the Field Duty EDC, but the regular Field Duty as well. And I borrowed Kyle's Field Duty to review, and I liked a lot about it. But there was one particular design element that drove me crazy. The jimping on this back corner on that knife was so sharp that when I'd reach past it in my front right pocket to get to my wallet, which I carry there just about every day, it just scratched my hand to the point where it really irritated me. I didn't like that knife very much because of it. This, on the other hand, is much better. It doesn't do that. So I like that about it. Anyway, the three of them are all in this brotherhood of this being one of the greatest EDC knives that exist right now. And as much as I would love to have a dissenting opinion from theirs, because I just love that with them, I kind of have to agree to a certain extent. This is a phenomenal knife. This isn't, to be transparent, a knife that I see myself getting, but I imagine if I had had this knife come in as a loaner a year ago, I probably would have felt the need to have one personally. But lately with my own collection, I've just been kind of selling a lot of the things kind of in this range, and focusing on more high-end bougie pieces just because I'm having fun in that kind of side of the industry at the moment. But yeah, so let's talk about this knife, and I guess that's kind of setting the stage for how we've gotten here. I've had this for way too long. It's probably been over a month now. I need to get it back to Chris. In fact, it's actually not even going straight back to him. It's going to Alex from 814 EDC first, so you can see it on his channel after mine, and then it'll go back to Grady's Gear. But again, Grady's Gear will be linked down below. Appreciate you, Chris. You're the best. All right, so this is the Field Duty EDC. It has a pretty cool construction. You can see it's a titanium frame lock. So we've got titanium on this side, and then we have, I think he calls it a monoblock construction, kind of like what Strider does. Basically, instead of having a backspacer, it's like half of an integral. I guess every knife is half of integral. This is like 60% of an integral. Like there's no backspacer or standoffs or anything. Instead, this carbon fiber show scale is milled out of a pretty thick piece so that in the end you can have this kind of ledge here that goes down, and it works well. I think it looks really cool, especially when you look at the back and you see kind of the end cut of the carbon fiber. I really like that look. Feels really good, feels very seamless, and it feels honestly a lot like an integral, except almost half of it is titanium and the other, just more than half, is carbon fiber. So it's kind of cool in that way. So carbon fiber, titanium, we have a lock bar insert. These are built by Riat. Pretty much all of Liong's knives in this day and age are built by Riat, from what I understand, at least the ones that he sells himself. He may still have some licensed designs out there with, like, I know he used to do some with like CRKT and stuff, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, he's using Riat for all of his production knives as far as I know. This is one of them. So typical Riat, nice hardware, nice finish on the carbon fiber, great finish on the titanium. The blade steel on this guy is going to be LMAX, which I think is pretty good. I like LMAX. I believe LMAX is kind of a predecessor to M390. I think M390 was kind of an evolution of LMAX, but I still like LMAX. I've had good experiences with it on the knives that I've owned in it, and yeah, it's one of those steels that I've got no qualms with. I think it works great for the things I look for in a steel. And yeah, so that's what we're working with materials wise. LMAX, titanium, carbon. The clip, I guess if we're getting technical, has a ceramic ball on it, so there's that. It does run on ceramic bearings internally, And the titanium side does have some internal milling, so this thing feels really light because it's carbon on the show side. Basically a big long carbon fiber backspacer, even though it's actually just part of that scale like we already talked about. But then the fact that the titanium is internally milled as well means this thing comes in real lightweight. All right, so let's talk about my typical things. Ergo's carry, cutting, action. Ergonomics, this is where this knife shines probably the most. Maybe cutting too, we'll talk about that. But ergos on this knife are just phenomenal. It is excellent in hand. You've got this huge, like gently sloped forward finger choil that just allows you to choke up so comfortably, and you even kind of have room to kind of, I don't know, finesse your way into your own grip in there. It's not forcing you too much. Some forward finger choils really feel like you're locked into a very particular grip. This, I feel like I've got a little bit of wiggle room. If I'm choked back, I can still just barely get all 4 fingers on this knife with my medium glove size hands that I fill out real well. But I live up here. This is where I hold the knife at, I don't know, 9.5 times out of 10. The forward choil is just where this knife shines. Gives you a great way to choke up. There is some jimping up here on the spine, but it's not overly aggressive. In fact, it's pretty unaggressive as jimping goes, so it doesn't bug me. Hasn't made me mad that it's there even once. So yeah, just a really nice saber grip when you're choked up in that forward choil. Choke back, still very comfortable. It just feels like I'm a little far away from the edge, which is, I think, why I typically don't use this. If this had cutting edge all the way to back here, this would still feel like ergos, I'd say, feel nice. But the fact that the forward choil is there, I will take that over the extra cutting edge of not having it there, if that makes sense. So yeah, hammer grip, saber grip, both comfortable in and out of the choil. Reverse grip, very comfortable. Reverse grip draw cut, very comfortable. Forward grip draw cut, very comfortable. So any orientation I put this knife into my hand, it's just comfortable. It's quite neutral at the end of the day when you look at it, other than the choil, which is also, as choils go, quite neutral. Everything is super chamfered, super smooth, super rounded, so it's just a comfortable knife to hold on to. So ergos are a big win. I really, really love the ergos on this knife. Let's jump right into cutting, because I already alluded to that being fantastic. We're working with a blade stock that isn't crazy thin, but it's not thick either. Feels kind of average. And it's a full flat grind. So the fact that we've got a thin enough blade stock to begin with and a nice full flat grind with this kind of spear point shape, it's just, I don't know, I love the way that this blade feels when I've done some cutting tasks with it. I haven't done a ton because this is Grady's Gears knife. I'm not being brutal on it, but I've used it for my typical EDC stuff. So I've opened a few packages with it. I've cut open some kind of intricate packaging things with it. A lot of tape, a lot of cardboard, not a lot, I should say, a few boxes that I've processed for the dumpster. Did I do a zip tie with it? I think I did put it through a zip tie. And then I did also actually cut one apple with it. I cleaned it incredibly well after, but the fact that it sliced an apple really well is a very good indicator, in my opinion, of a good slicing knife. A knife that can do that and slice it without splitting the apple feels good. So yeah, I really like cutting with this knife. It's just not like a laser beam. It's not like it's the thinnest folding knife I've ever held, but it's thin behind the edge, and it's an excellent cutting geometry, and the blade shape just works. It's nice, easy, gradual belly all the way along. It feels precise. It feels like it's going where you point it. It's just nice. It indexes. I like it. Okay, so carry and cutting are both really, really good. Not carry. Ergos and cutting. Let's talk carry, because I just Freudian slipped that. The carry, I will say, is also really, really good. For being a non-deep carry clip, this is a titanium clip. It's a decent enough clearance. I haven't had any issues getting it in and out of pocket. It's got plenty of retention. It's been totally dependable as pocket clips go. And it carries fairly deep for being not deep carry. Like a milled titanium clip, oftentimes you have a lot more than that much knife sticking out of your pocket. So that's kind of nice in that way. It's already very, very light, which I've said. It is not overly thick. Feels like, in fact, a little on the slimmer end in the thickness department. It's not crazy tall. Everything is super smooth on it. There's nothing rough or like overly textured on this knife, and every single edge is just really knocked down. It does still have that tiny bit of jimping like its big brother does, but here it's way softer than it is on the full-size Field Duty. And I honestly haven't even really noticed that jimping unless I'm looking for it. So yeah, in pocket, it's very good. It carries quite well. I really like it. I've carried it both as a primary and as a secondary. It's a little more primary size for me. This is kind of pushing it for a secondary, but if I'm carrying something really big as a primary, then all of a sudden it seems not so big. So that's happened a couple of times. And yeah, I like the way it carries. That leaves us with action. So this is a part of the knife that I would say is like incredible one way and just okay the other. On deployment, this knife flies. This detent is set up supremely well, and I think that's why Kevin, Lefty EDC, the detent diva himself, is such a big fan of this knife. It's one of the best detents for middle finger flicking. It pops. The way the knife sounds when it does it is cool, but the amount of pressure it takes for that detent to release is borderline perfect. It's really, really good on deployment. It's not going to fail. Middle finger flicking. Thumb flicking works as well. I've done that only a handful of times because if middle finger flicking is borderline perfect on a knife, then I'm going to do that just about every single time. It's my favorite way to open a knife. But yeah, you've got either option there. It's a pretty large hole. That's what she said. It's elongated. That's also what she said. I don't know. It's a good size hole, and it makes it easy from pretty much any grip to go ahead. You can down low, you can get it up high, and no matter what, it pops all the way open. It's great. The way that it's not miraculous in the action department is on closure. You've probably noticed every time I'm closing it, I'm pulling it all the way down. This knife is not like drop shutty at all. Some people don't care about that. For you, you may love that this isn't drop shutty, but I prefer it when a knife is, and this one isn't, which isn't the end of the world. I would gladly take a poppy, snappy detent to get the knife out and not have it drop shutty, than have a knife that's somehow drop shutty, but you have to like slow roll open. That would seem dumb to me. So I like this. It's so good on deployment that I forgive that this is really lackluster. But if I'm analyzing it, it's really lackluster to close. Most of the time, I'm just using my finger to pull it shut. I'm not letting gravity drop it shut. I think part of why it's like that, honestly, has got to just be because this lock bar is a little stiff. And that's probably part of why the detent is so poppy. So it's like a little bit of a trade-off there that's happening. But this lock bar seems to just be keeping a pretty good amount of pressure. Although if I hold, it's not crazy drop shutty. I don't know. Even if I'm trying to hold the lock bar all the way over, it's still not free dropping. So it could be a mix of things. But deployment is awesome. Closure is just fine. It's like, it's not exciting to close, but it's exciting to open. So where does that leave us? Like I kind of mentioned at the beginning, this is absolutely like from a balanced EDC knife view, this is one of the better knives I think I've ever reviewed. It's really incredibly balanced at being great at EDC. I love the way it sits in pocket. I love the way it feels in hand. I love the way it cuts. And the action on deployment is a lot of fun. So like, I don't know, 8.5 out of 10 if I had to score it. It's like really good. And it's not cheap. I don't remember exactly what these cost. I should probably look it up. In fact, let me do that. I'll just look it up and then we will know exactly what it costs, because since I didn't buy it, I don't know for sure. Let me add a new tab because that one was important. Field Duty EDC. I called it in a joke today on my Instagram the Field Booty EDC, and I got a kick out of that. Okay, so here's where it starts to lose me a little bit, although I don't find it that egregious. So retail on these appears to be $369, which for LMAX, a frame lock, carbon fiber, it's not a steal, right? But at the same time, I'm the guy coming out with the Avant that pre-ordered at $300, and it's a liner lock with micarta and M390. So not every knife has to be like the best deal to feel like it's worth it. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm at a point where I'm kind of selling a lot of knives in this range to fund knives in this range. Like this is an Utzler Duck custom that I just got at California Custom Knife Show. And I'm just having more fun with that range of knives right now. But if I wasn't, I would absolutely gladly pay the $369 that this costs, because at the end of the day, it's not just materials that determine the value of a knife. You could find a knife with arguably better materials. I don't really know what would be better. I guess maybe the blade steel. Elmax is like maybe just below top tier, but it's up there. Some people love it. It's good. It has a cooler name than M390, but gun to my head, I'd prefer M390 to Elmax. Anyway, you could find another knife out there with objectively as good or better materials for much less than this costs. Sure, but I don't think it would necessarily make it a better knife. There are so many things about the design and the way it's actually put together and the little touches, all of the chamfering, the internal milling, the monoblock construction, just the way it all comes together that makes it really, honestly phenomenal. This is a great, great knife. I've really enjoyed it. There is a chance that somewhere down the line I'll end up thinking, nah, I could really use one of those. Not that there's any knives that I need at this point. I have so many knives, but it's good. It's just balanced. Like, the word that keeps coming to my mind for this knife is how balanced it is. It's a good blend of awesome ergos. It's great to carry. It's lightweight. It cuts super well. Like, what more can you really ask for? The way it all comes together is great. So, is it a little expensive? Sure. But I've had much less for a lot more. That's for sure. Anyway, I guess that'll be it. I think that's a pretty good encapsulation of how I feel about this knife. I think it's great. I wouldn't have any problem recommending one, even at the price that they come in. I think it's a good buy. I think the G10 ones are probably even slightly less than that. They probably weigh about the same. I imagine they feel virtually identical. I think carbon's a little cooler than G10. But yeah, I think it's a great knife. So there you have it. Again, Grady's gear will be linked down below. He's a good buddy. I love you, Chris. You're awesome. And you'll see this knife again if you follow 814 EDC. So cool. Thanks for checking it out, guys. We'll see you on the next one.